Happy. It's not that bad. It's not that bad is the theme of this episode of the Belligerent Beavs Podcast, episode 164 of the Belligerent Beavs Podcast. We'll probably spend a lot of time talking about how bad certain things are on this episode, with one of the three of us chiming in, it's not that bad. So happy it's not that bad. / spooky season. / Halloween week. Happy Halloween week to everyone. Hope everyone
Happy Halloween week.
Is excited, has costumes ready and parties ready, and is giving out good candy for trick-or-treating. Fuck you if you're not. Yeah, welcome to the 164th episode of the Belligerent Beavs Podcast. JP hit record very abruptly. The Nintendo 64 episode of Belligerent Beavs Podcast. Ooh, damn it. It would have been perfect for us to do a Nintendo 64 themed episode. Where we could just play 64 games and then record the sounds.
GoldenEye.
That would be the only way for me to swear more, because
I just want to
you guys are so much better at GoldenEye than I am.
Not me. Not me.
Yes, you are.
I've never played except for with you guys.
But Benny, I feel like you're like, I never played this. I'm going to be bad at it, so I don't care. And thus that lackadaisical approach where you don't put a ton of pressure on yourself helps you, where I'm like, I did play this game, why am I miserable? And JP and Iskinder are just getting double digit kills on me in a 5-minute game, and I can't figure out which way to point the gun. And I played GoldenEye a lot. It was a seminal part of my childhood. I don't know what happened to my GoldenEye abilities.
Did we play that the same night where we all had the THC drinks?
Yes.
Not we. I didn't have that because I was making sure I could snipe all you fools.
And then we played Sniper, and JP was the only one functional enough to know how it worked.
Yeah, that's right.
I was like, drink up. Yes, drink up. Yeah. I'll hunt you down.
And it would likely create this exact same kind of audio content for an episode of the Belligerent Beavs Podcast.
Yeah.
As our normal conversations do.
I'm the Zodiac killer of GoldenEye.
Oh, you guys seen that on Netflix?
Yes.
I have not.
Oh, good. Oh, good.
Is it called Zodiac Killer?
It's called The Zodiac is Talking.
This is the Zodiac speaking. That's how he had started writing all of his letters to the SF Chronicle. You know what's crazy is we were kicking off this spooky season episode at the end of spooky season.
Well, we've been referencing it for some time, and Betty dressed as Jeffrey Dahmer last week for our YouTube viewers.
Yeah.
I feel like we've been in the spirit the whole month.
Yeah. Anyways, my mom lived in the Bay Area in the peak of the Zodiac's reign of terror across the entire Bay Area, and her parents, my Nana and Papa, hello Nana, and
hey Nana,
they would, I guess, one night they would regularly go out. They'd do bowling with friends. They had their weekly events with their other couple friends and whatnot. And my mom she's the oldest, so she'd stay home and babysit her brother. And then one night, my mom told me the story that she got a phone call, and the person, it was probably a prank call, but still, imagine being in your early teenage years or younger, and somebody calls your house phone, and you answer, and they're breathing, and they say, "This is the Zodiac speaking." Jeez, how terrified would you be? Yeah. At that point, you would just be like, I don't know, hide under a bed, go Home Alone style, and just duck under your parents' bed. What do you do?
Just close your eyes and pretend it's not happening.
So we bring this up to our listeners sometimes because we're all men in their 30s, so we're at a weird stage in society where we can remember pre-internet stuff. Maybe you can't, JP,
but my brain has just been.
We can remember having conversations on landline phones and things of that nature. So I wonder,
party line.
When your mom was in her early teenage years, was star 69 a thing? Because I remember that was a thing. Yeah, star 69, nice. That was a thing to you youngsters. If someone prank called your house, you could hang up, hit *69, and it would tell you what phone number last called your house. No, just call them
back. Maybe it would tell you too.
I think by the time I was using it, to figure out all the prank phone calls I was getting from all the friends, I think it just it was an automated operator voice that just repeated the numbers maybe. But also,
I used to dial *69 and it was
and then it would just
start ringing.
Okay, and you'd be
and you'd be
that's even scarier.
Who are you?
Because someone calls your house. This is the Zodiac speaking. You scream and hang up, and then you *69 to try and find out who it was. It rings, and then it answers this is still the Zodiac speaking.
Zodiac here.
I see you are fluent with landline phone technology.
You know when it got really good though, and it was a little bit of good retribution you could get was when you could *67.
Yeah,
and that mattered when caller ID became
because then it blocked it, right?
The norm.
You would *67, then dial the number, and your name wouldn't show up. Caller ID is hilarious too. We take that shit for granted now. You had to buy a separate attachment to plug into your landline.
Yeah.
And it was really just parents who were mad about telemarketers. But imagine, how many people got...
Imagine how annoying that must have been. Imagine how annoying that must have been for parents who were sitting down to have dinner with their kids, wrangling their kids inside to have dinner, and all of a sudden the ring's just ringing off the hook, and someone's trying to sell them a pillow. Or I don't know what telemarketers
are. First, vengeful less me. I am not vengeful at all. You guys know this. Loved *67 because I knew if I got prank called, I could get them back so bad, and they have no proof it was me. But then I never did that because I'm not vengeful. But the best story about this sitting down for dinner and somebody calling the phone, it didn't actually still matter though if you did have caller ID. Because if you just didn't know whose number it was, you'd have the phone number, but it only helped you if you could pin that to your memory or your phone book, your physical, your parents' handwritten phone book. Yeah, of here's everyone we know. Here's their mailing addresses and their phone numbers.
Yeah.
And it was never this is the girl you have a crush on calling.
Yeah. my dad though, I think in middle school he during the .com era boom, that post boom, was in between work and he started running his own business. He got his own business line, but the business line was in the living room. I don't know, it was all out of whack. But every single night my dad's business line for not every night but very frequently for a long time after it didn't ring for months, started ringing, and he sprint from the dinner table to go answer, thinking it was a potential customer. And every single time it was some stoned dude who'd be hey, is this Mr. Pizza Man? What? No, this is Jim Bertram. He'd be yeah, I'm looking for Mr. Pizza Man. And my dad what? What are you talking about? Then when you found out it was
one number removed, one number removed
from Mr. Pizza Man, the pizza joint,
from a 24/7 Pizza Hut pizza delivery place.
And the guy would call every week, being super stoned,
no,
hey, is this Mr. Pizza Man?
That's so funny.
It was the only calls.
It's a 9, not an 8.
Line.
Yeah. Did your dad ever just get bored and be yes, this is Mr. Pizza Man. What can I get you?
Well, no, because
and
then
just take a
time, and he's God damn it, stop calling here. I'm not Mr. Pizza Man. And come sit back down at the dinner table.
That's ring. That's the side of your dad I hadn't seen. I would.
What did you guys read in literature class today? I don't know, Dad, I don't read books.
Dude, I was talking about that with some of my coworkers because they all have kids, and they're talking about how just ChatGPT and what sort of what their ethics are with ChatGPT. Is it cheating? Is it not cheating? Should they encourage it? Should they not? And I was man, the only form of easy cheating that we had were Spark Notes or at the back of the math books. Remember where they would put the answers?
Uh-huh.
If you had a good math teacher, they made you show the work. But ours were limited. Ours were so limited in ways that we could cheat. But
you might be able to buy somebody's old midterm or something.
Oh,
you'd
true.
you'd
That's-
get lucky.
yeah.
You'd get lucky and you'd get like a used textbook of like a former really studious person who took like a lot of notes in the margins, and you'd be like, oh
Yeah.
shit, they just explained this whole chapter. Like, perfect. But then
The
you'd have to be trustworthy with it. You weren't trusting the internet that's using data. It's like, I hope this stranger got good grades.
Yeah.
But bringing this all back a little bit, but on topic, but bringing it back to spooky season, and
We haven't broached a single topic, so it's impossible to be off topic. This is just the nonsense portion of the episode.
If ChatGPT is cheating, what do you call my last couple of nights bedtime stories to my kids, where I've gone back to advanced voice mode on ChatGPT, and I've had it tell them stories that include them as the main characters about factual things in real life. And Ev, the mini bebe, passed out the first night in the middle of it because it was such a good story. And then poor Poppy, the second mini bebe, she was terrified and needed it to be like turned into like a. Well, I had it tell the story for me. I said, tell my kids a bedtime story that's spooky and scary about the Winchester Mystery House.
Oh,
I mean, if they're actually getting information about the Winchester Mystery House,
oh my god,
that's digestible.
You're like, I need to go find the 3 videos that are the most scary so I can talk about them on the podcast. You guys listen to this. Goodbye.
Right. But you're asking this whole. I don't know if the questionable part of this parenting decision making is the ChatGPT element of it.
No, I am all for it. Non-parent, I am all for it. I think that is a great
asking two non-parents, how do you explain this fatherhood decision I made? Is this technically cheating?
Is it cheating or not?
Well,
no.
It's embracing a new era.
I don't think you're taking a fatherhood class. I don't think I'd have anything to go to social services and be like, hey, man, this guy's using ChatGPT to make up Winchester Mystery House themed stories about his kids. One of them's really scared. The other one couldn't care less and is falling asleep. I think they probably they would hang up and *69 and block the number that popped up.
Yeah.
They've got other shit to deal with.
They *67 you and make this the Zodiac speaking.
How do you have fun on an Oregon State sports themed podcast in year of our Lord 2024? This is fucking how. We're doing it.
This is how.
Yeah.
We're doing it.
Anyway. It is crazy how all the scary serial killers are from the West Coast.
Yeah.
We need a premier conference to represent that, I think.
I agree.
Oh, man, there's
Let's lean in.
Yeah.
There's so many.
We weren't called giant killers for no reason.
Exactly. Serial killers.
There's bodies buried in my backyard
There
and
are.
elsewhere.
Right.
Yep.
Everyone who's co-hosted a podcast with you is in the backyard. Those aren't Halloween decorations.
We're not real voices. We're just
Benny-
ChatGPT voices
Benny and
that
I
JP
angled
has created.
corpses.
Yeah, advanced mode. I have early access.
I need to look this up. I've been using Perplexity.
Oh, what?
Yeah. Well, I have ChatGPT's premium thing too that I use sometimes.
Oh, advanced voice mode on the iPhone is like, it's like conversational. It'll pause if you interrupt it. It will wait for you to respond silently and not be like, can I help you with anything else? It'll just wait and wait for you to address it. It's amazing.
You're talking about through an AI's app on the iPhone or
just the ChatGPT app? If you start a voice chat, if you haven't done it, it should prompt you like, you now have advanced voice mode, and it's really good. Like it has like inflections. When I told it to tell a scary story, it actually like told the story like somebody being like, and then like it like had the spooky edge to it versus like asking a regular question, how long do I boil this pasta for so it's al dente? Like it'll like respond normally there, right? Or maybe even shout back at you if you're yelling over the boiling water.
I was gonna ask, can you get it to be mean? Like,
yeah. You can.
Boil the pasta till it's fucking done, you idiot. You need a computer to help you with this? It's pasta.
Yeah, I mean, you can put that in your main instructions. Be like, just be an absolute ass to me for everything I ask you. Condescending.
You can look at the wife and
Total
be like,
jerk.
see, it could get worse. There are worse guys than me. I look pretty nice stacked up to this guy.
Yeah. From all I know, AI can kill you, and I won't do it.
Well, this
I'm trying to
actually
keep the
is
spooky
very on
season theme.
topic because, as I've mentioned before, this is all very terrifying material to me and to everyone. But it is spooky season, and before we get into talking about the absolute fucking horror show that took place in Berkeley this weekend, we thought it'd be fun to do a little mini fantasy draft of scary movies or horror movies or just scary things we've seen on
A screen.
on a screen. So it could be a series, it could be a one
YouTube
limited
video?
series, a YouTube video, or a chat GPT story that you had read out loud to your 4-year-old.
Yeah.
However you
Pretty
want to do
spooky.
it. I'm just going to randomly make up the draft order right now because we need to get into it. And I'm just going to do reverse. I'm going to do alphabetical order by first name. Benny JP Terry. I was originally going to give myself the first pick because you guys both like scary movies a lot more than I do. And I want to be sure I get my first pick. But after talking about this, I kind of think I will. I think we're all approaching this very differently. There's not really any way to win. It's just a way to have a fun convo. Benny,
the rule was not just movies. Let's clarify that.
It's not just movies. It can be
Yeah.
it can be TV, it can be streaming, it can be whatever. It's just a way to talk about scary / Halloween / horror themed things. And maybe throw some recs to people. I imagine people will want some things to watch for this last week of spooky season as the clock melts on October and we move into November, into harvest season.
And then you look in the mirror and your face is melting off. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Benny, I think this the order too that, I mean, you guys are both more into horror movies than I am, but I think Benny's the most enthusiastic just in general about the genre. And
I have a wife that absolutely despises scary stuff, though. So I haven't really partaken in.
Ooh, okay.
Hell yeah.
But I do love
and actually,
Halloween. I don't. Go ahead, sorry.
Yeah. No, I do too. And the first one that I have is actually from Fraternity House. I watched at the Fraternity House. Yeah.
Real quick. All right, JP, please play 5 seconds of the NFL draft chime sound, which I think you can find pretty easily on YouTube and won't get us sued. I've used it in things before. Benny, you are on the clock with the first pick in the whatever kind of scary movie draft. Obligatory shout out to All Fantasy Everything, my favorite fantasy draft themed podcast.
It is great. It is great. You turned me on to that. We actually listened to that when we were driving back from West Lafayette.
Yes.
To see the Purdue game.
Yes.
The other Purdue game. The first Purdue game.
A million years ago, what it feels like.
Yeah.
And also yesterday, because of how fun that trip was. But also.
Yeah.
All right, Benny.
So, okay. So
start.
mine, the first on my list is Paranormal Activity. And this movie is so scary. It was, I had to have been, I don't know, 21 in the fraternity house. So there was probably like 10, 15 guys that I was watching this with. And
I was one of them.
Yeah, everyone was kind of scared. I was very scared. Like very, very scared.
Shitting my pants in the back of the theater.
I was scared to the point where people were like coming up to my door an hour after and just lightly tapping it. I was very freaked out. Because I was like the most obviously scared from watching that. If you haven't seen it and you like scary movies, watch it. If you don't like scary movies, definitely don't watch it because it's terrifying.
Only if you really like scary movies, because
But it's
one
done
where it's like it's literally like this couple's like house is haunted and it's based on a true story, and they don't necessarily tell you everything about it, but it's just like
loosely
based. And now their lives are ruined.
Yeah.
But
they did it in the Blair Witch style,
It was
to where it was all sort of handheld cameras.
And
It
the
was
Blair Witch Project was real. That actually happened.
It happened. That came out in '98, so I was easily convinced that it was real.
And
Well, the actors felt like it was real.
right.
That is a fact.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah, they were terrified.
Side small sort of story. My mom rented what she thought was the Blair Witch Project. This was a couple years after it came out. It was actually called the Blair Bitch Project, and it was a spoof. It was a spoof movie on it. Very obviously realized very quickly that it was not the Blair Witch Project, but it was very funny.
Nice. I'm so happy.
Yeah.
All right.
I watched Paranormal
Wait, the clock
Activity.
is running out.
Whatever, it's fine. With 15, I couldn't watch that movie in any other scenario other than with like 15 guys who are like kind of making fun of it, but also scared simultaneously.
It's scary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's terrifying. It's terrifying.
Yeah.
You definitely said you interpreted this as literal as possible. The scariest thing I could have watched.
Yeah.
JP, your turn in the scary movie, scary on-screen product draft.
Okay, well, when you go with first round pick, it's got to be an overall consensus like agreement, and I would say there are far and few people who would argue that this is not spooked them at one point or another. Benny looks scared.
Just the anticipation.
Yeah, and I'm going to shift away from the silver screen to the TV screen and go with Unsolved Mysteries.
Dude.
Yes. The song gets me.
That is a perfect pick. That is a perfect pick.
Oh,
thank you.
and I just got shivers up my spine just thinking about it.
Everyone was at that sleepover where like one kid knew about Unsolved Mysteries before like every other kid there, and when you like the parents were like, all right, now it's time for bed, and then they'd go upstairs, they'd be like, dude, I'm gonna put on VH1 or whatever the fucking channel was on. I remember like just stumbling into Unsolved Mysteries that way and being utterly terrified but completely transfixed at the same time.
My parents used to watch it when I was growing up, and I had to like leave the room when the theme song came on because it scared me so much. And my parents just let me do it, and they didn't turn it off. They just kept watching.
Yeah. See, good parenting.
Yeah.
I have the same notebook that they do. I have the same Spark Notes.
The same Spark Notes notebook? Well, there's no spot to take notes because, God damn it, you know you're not going to write anything anyway.
Yeah.
Didn't Unsolved Mysteries, is there like a new season?
It's back on Netflix.
Like they've done like new episodes in the last couple of years?
Yeah.
They dabbled a little too hard in like paranormal this last time. It used to be a lot of like unsolved crime stories.
Like Dave Myers got on a train and he never came home.
Actually, a lady or a man who was killed in San Carlos when I was a kid. It was like the first murder in like 30 years in San Carlos. That mystery ended up on Unsolved Mysteries, and that was really freaky to watch as a kid.
Yeah.
God, I can't even imagine.
Because I was already terrified, thinking that somebody had like there was a murderer like running around my like small town, and then I had to listen to the Unsolved Mysteries music while I relive my torturous storyline. But then, she was caught. The murder was a woman, which is very rare.
It's super rare.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a burglary or a robbery gone wrong, clearly. But she was caught just like 3 years ago.
Oh, whoa, really?
Yeah. She was like on the lam for like 30 years. Moved to like Oklahoma or something.
Did they know who it was?
No.
They like solved it and then went and got her.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So solved mysteries, bitch.
Yeah.
Solved Mysteries.
What was the guy's name that used to host that also was starred in Airplane?
The guy who'd host Unsolved Mysteries?
Yeah, remember he would like always wore a trench coat and would walk into a room that was filled with steam.
Wasn't it Joe Montana?
What? No.
Isn't it Joe Montana?
Joe Montana? Are you saying
Joe Montana? Joe Montana is an actor, not Joe Montana. It would be hilarious if Joe Montana hosted Unsolved Mysteries, though. We can look this up.
No,
this is
it was. Oh my gosh. It was
Robert
You
Stack.
say his name.
Robert
Yep.
Stack.
Yeah.
Man, and he fit it so good.
So good.
Oh, what did Joe Montana?
The way he would talk and like tease the mystery, it was like, ooh, this sounds good. And then you're like, oh, but the way he's telling me this story,
Yeah.
it chills down my spine. Why is he doing this? Stop talking. Why are you walking through the mist? What's going on?
Mist was a good addition.
Yeah.
The Mist was a great addition.
Shout out to the visual effects crew.
Yep.
I almost said Tony.
Is he related to Dan Mareno?
Danny Mareno. It's just all these different Italian Americans with like slightly altered names from all-time NFL great quarterbacks. I do think Joe Montana was born before Joe Montana, but whatever. My number one pick, it's my favorite scary movie ever. And like I said, I don't have a deep history of movies I love, but I gotta go with The Shining. It's one that I watch every year. One of my favorite movies. I love the book. It's honestly probably the best book to film adaptation ever. And yeah, just creepy Jack Nicholson.
It's a good like slashery, jumpy, mindfucky movie.
Yeah.
Which nowadays it's like most horror films kind of fall in like one of those categories and lean in to it all the way.
And I love a movie with a ghost bartender. We need more ghost bartenders in popular culture. It's a small
best kind
role.
of bartenders.
I bet you there's one in your garage when you go to sleep that crawls up from your basement.
There probably is. There probably is. My house is for sure haunted. Maybe that's why I don't love scary movies.
Oh.
It's true. You have to just find the right ones.
Well, it
goes without saying because you JP, I'm almost positive you know this, and Terry, I think you do too. But The Shining was filmed at Timberline Lodge.
Yeah.
Yep.
Up on Mount Hood. Yeah.
Well, the exterior shots were,
Oh, the interior wasn't?
I think it was a set. Or it was another hotel. But yeah, the exterior was. So everyone was led to believe,
that was a hotel.
That there was a frozen axe murderer just at one spot. I think that movie ruined hedge mazes for a lot of people. I think hedge mazes is a type of activity, recreational activity, that probably could have been ruined or was deserved to be ruined. I don't think society is losing anything by being a little more skeptical of hedge mazes.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree.
Nice.
I've never been in one. I've been in a corn maze. Those are fun.
Fantasy drafts are normally snake drafts, but I don't think I'm ready for another pick. So we're just going to go back to the top and alternate.
Yeah.
Benny.
So this is...
You go back. You pick again.
It's a deep cut. Tried sharing it with Terry back in 2020. I went back to my text today to look. Terry's response was... Hold on. Let me pull... I screenshotted it. Terry's response was...
You screenshot something from 2020?
Yeah.
Damn.
He said, that still frame of the video looks too disturbing. I ain't fucking with it.
I have no idea what this is, but that sounds like me.
It's a movie that, so Yuri is one of her coworkers. She became really good friends with, and he and I were bonding over like who could send each other the creepiest videos, and he hit the grand slam in the bottom of the ninth with this video. It's called IB Area, and it's I-BE and then space area. It is single-handedly the scariest thing I have ever seen in my entire life.
Why?
It's so creepy, and I'm like just like my voice is trembling just talking about it. It's so creepy. A way where it's like your brain is tickled in a way where you say that things, you try to scare yourself, but you can't scare yourself.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
You were saying that, I think, on the pod. Bet this would scare you. I'll send it to you tonight.
Send it to me.
What is it?
I bet it won't.
It's a YouTube video of...
So I just saw a clip of it. I'll post it on Twitter. For our listeners, I'll post it on Twitter.
I don't want to watch it. Give me like the
I know you don't.
Spark Notes. Past Terry's judgment is a judgment I trust, but
I'll try to explain it. It is these Simpson-looking characters. It's not cartoon. It's like real, but these like Simpson looking characters that go into this house where it's just like these adults that are living there, and they're interacting, but in a way that is so like disconnected from each other. It's like what you would imagine like a bad trip on some psychedelic drug would be. There's not really a storyline to explain like this is what was scary about it. It's like the visuals and just like the incoherence of it, and the sound. They have get the name of the song. It's a popular 90s song that they do like weird adaptation sound effects to that make it sound super creepy. JP, I'm sending it to you right now. You'll like this. All right. But yeah, I'm passionate about it. And it is
area is how
IB area.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. JP, your second pick.
So this one I watched, I don't know. I've said this before, and Benny just referenced it. Like, scary movies don't scare me. Most of them entertain me. And I've shifted drastically away from anything that tries to make it jumpy or spooky or paranormal or whatever, because it's all kind of been done. And so anything that's like new, like doesn't really hit the mark anymore. It's like, it's kind of just recycled. But we recently watched, my wife and I, a movie that I thought was not scary, like, oh crap, I'm terrified, but more like wow, that was fucked up kind of thing, but not in like a morbid way, and kind of. But I thought it was really well done and unique, and something that was fresh for the horror genre. And that was Late Night with the Devil. And I'm going to take that one because I think that it is a very, I don't know, underserved, underappreciated horror film from this year that is so, I don't like, just perfectly situated within its own realm. Like, there's nothing where you're like, oh, this is kind of like that other movie that was done 10 years ago, 30 years ago. It's like, this is new. Like, it's finally a good twist on horror that's been missing for so long. And it's really, really a good film. And if you haven't seen it, it's essentially like a mockumentary style, the way it's filmed, horror film that blends fiction and nonfiction. So there's real life, but there's also like the components that are fictional that are in the movie. That's about like a 70s talk show host who was struggling, and then they bring this little girl on who can communicate with the devil, and everything maybe goes haywire, but maybe doesn't. But it might just be the devil messing with you. But the things that occur because of her summoning the devil are very entertaining.
Oh, what's it called again?
Late Night with the Devil. It's very good.
Late Night with the Devil. Okay.
Yeah, I would highly recommend if you're looking for just like something fresh in the horror genre.
Yeah,
that's a good one. And if you like a bit of nostalgia, because it's like filmed in like 70s era, like camera work, even if it's, After Effect, but like it makes you think this was like filmed in like a period appropriate equipment.
Interesting.
Yeah.
What's it on?
Okay.
I think it's on Shudder, and I think I watched it somewhere else as well, but I'm looking at it now and it says it's a Shudder original, and I'm surprised it's a Shudder original, but because I haven't liked some of their originals, but like it was, I think you can buy it to rent, or if you get Shudder, you can just watch it for free. And Shudder's like $4.99 a month, and I only subscribe to Shudder. SHUDDER, like I'm shuddering. I only subscribed to it in October, and then I just cancel for the rest of the year. So I watch as many horror films, no matter how trashy or highly rated, can during October to make my $4.99 go as far as it possibly can.
It's just scary stuff.
It's only scary movies.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Okay,
it's a good sub.
I don't think I subscribe, but that's like a cool.
I want to do it year round.
Yeah.
For if I'm going to rent one movie that's a horror movie, it's like going to be 3x that at least.
Oh yeah,
to rent for 48 hours or whatever. So I might as well just maybe see if it's on Shudder and pay $5 and then watch an endless list of classics and new movies.
Nice.
That's fun.
Like they have all the Halloweens, they have all the Friday the 13th. I mean, it's all on there.
All those.
If it's a known or has a cult following, it is on there. And then if it's new, it's probably on there.
Nice.
Or at least fairly new.
Well, that's a great rec. That was the spirit of the whole reason to do the fantasy draft. So good job, JP.
You're welcome. Keeping this afloat.
For my second pick, I don't think this is going to be a new rec for anybody. And I'm going kind of off base here, but this did creep me out at the time when it was popular. It wasn't necessarily intended to be scary, but certainly a big part of the presentation was to create a sense of unease and to be creepy, and sort of the world building that it did was definitely to make it scary. And I think that's a part of why it became a sensation. And we are here on the 164th episode of the Belligerent Beavs Podcast. I got to mention a podcast for the first time, especially the theme song. I'm going to take Serial, the first podcast that really kind of took over the world. And if you want to say it's not a scary story, just look up Serial theme song right now and listen to it and tell me that's not the theme song for a fucking horror movie, just because it was a podcast, an entirely audio only medium. That thing creeped me out. I remember listening to Serial in bed when it was popular, going to sleep and then finishing the latest episode. And then my mind just being how the fuck did you think you were going to sleep after this? It's so dumb, but it's also just I was randomly thinking about Serial recently, and I just listened to the first episode again just for kicks. And it was unrelated to wanting to do a scary movie fantasy draft. And then be I'm taking a podcast because I'm contrarian. But it was just kind of there were podcasts before that, but that was the first viral podcast that everyone listened to at the same time. And just, the score was the main thing that was creepy as fuck about it. But yeah, shout out Serial. Now, I think it was exactly 10 years ago. Maybe it was 11, but
damn. Yeah, I used to listen to that driving down to and from California from the Northwest, and it was definitely a good binge listen. It did fall off a little when the second season, I believe.
I don't think I finished the second season.
Was it?
Is that the guy who's Atlanta or whatever?
The first season, I believe the guy who is still in has since been released from jail. But each season was at one story.
Anon,
so it's
his name?
Yeah, Anon Sayed. It didn't continue with his story into season 2. It was a different crime that they did investigative reporting into. And I think they have done seasons since that I think have been moderately well listened to. But obviously that first season just caught lightning in a bottle to a degree that happens, once a decade per medium, really. So
yeah.
But that's
season 1 was 2014. Damn, that's insane. Good choice.
Thank you.
Look at this. We're doing TV. We're doing.
Yeah. And it was on my phone, so my phone's a screen. All right, one quick final round before we get into actual stuff.
Yeah,
Betty.
So I'll make it quick for sure. It was sort of a crossroads of two different things. So when I was younger, shout out to Unsolved Mysteries. It was an episode on Unsolved Mysteries, and it was an episode about a guy stashing. It killed his wife, and he was stashing her body. It was behind a school, but he had wrapped her up in a white sheet and was dragging her. And someone was driving by the school and saw him, and he saw them looking at him, and then he started chasing them in his old truck, and he was gaining on them. And so this couple that saw him are telling the story, and they're it was so terrifying. He knew what we saw, and we knew what we saw. So anyways, his car ended up breaking down, and so they got away. And then years later, That was like when I was a little kid that I saw that. And then years later, I was watching Jeepers Creepers. They have a very similar scene in Jeepers Creepers where this guy, the scary monster, if you will, of Jeepers Creepers is dumping somebody wrapped up in a sheet down a big tube that it goes below his house. And lo and behold, so Jeepers Creepers scared me to death. That movie was the first movie that really, really scared me. Recently found out that scene of Jeepers Creepers was based off of that Unsolved Mysteries episode.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and they do line up very well.
Jeepers Creepers, where'd you get those eyes? JP, don't play 5 seconds of that. It's too scary of a song. The song's the scariest part about that movie, and the rest of the movie is very scary as well.
The movie is very scary.
Fucking terrifying. Just those wings and oh god. Well, I'm not
chicken wings.
If only. All right, JP, one more from you.
All right, I have to say I'll preface this with can I have 2 picks?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Unless one of them's mine, but I don't think it is.
No, I highly doubt it. But
if it is actually,
I would say most horror films project women as being victims and weak and unable to hold their own, to defend themselves, and it's a complete misrepresentation of what's actual reality. And unfortunately, it's been perpetuated for like 40, 50 years, even longer, 60 years. But I will say this is, I'm going to be contradictory, but not with this pick, but I'm going to be contradictory with my 3B pick. And it's my 3A pick isn't scary, is good. It's a slightly a women empowerment old school horror film, and it's from 1980, and it's Mother's Day. And I would say that it's also very unique in the way that the twists are with the film. So Mother's Day is my 3rd pick, 1980 version. I don't know if there's others. But if I had to go with a 3B, I was going to go to the complete opposite end of the spectrum and go with my entry point. For one reason or another, I won't have to divulge why, but for one reason or another, it led me down these, classic B-list cult following horror films, and it would be the Slumber Party Massacre. So Mother's Day or Slumber Party Massacre?
I haven't seen either.
I haven't seen either. Yeah. I don't have Shudder.
Well, I rented Slumber Party Massacre from like a Blockbuster in like middle school, being like, what kind of terrible film could we find to watch that just probably looks, sounds, and likely will be absolutely terrible. And Slumber Party Massacre checked every single box, but it was still entertaining. It was a good slasher film, right in the height of Slumber Party Massacre was 82. So it was like right in the height of, Freddy and Jason and everybody else.
Kind of the 80s horror movie heyday.
Yeah. Yeah. But also it's like, very, very victimizing to women. But it opened my eyes to like the whole B-list side of horror. And then really, 2 years before that was Mother's Day, where it had flipped the script. And
I have not gotten into
maybe Mother was in charge.
Ooh. I'm intrigued.
That can be
I'm
scary.
intrigued by both. Maybe I'll just, I'll have ChatGPT explain what happens in these movies to me so that I don't get
I'll send you the still of Mother's Day right now of Mother, and just so you can see if it looks a little creepy.
Correct. 3rd and final pick of this draft is I didn't think either of you would pick, but is the entire reason I thought of this because I wanted an excuse to talk about it. I am taking Paranormal Squirtivity by J.P. Bertram and Benjamin Lawrence Sebastian.
Yeah. Great movie.
In 2011, the summer of 2011, I think, when the two of you were the greatest unpaid spokesman for squirt soda ever, and also went ghost hunting at Marysville Cemetery in Corvallis, a place we had actually gone ghost hunting before. I think
at midnight.
all three of
By
us.
design.
Because there is the story. That cemetery is haunted by like a famous like a gigolo who seduced the wives of the village of Marysville, which eventually became a part of Corvallis.
I didn't know that's where he's buried. That is a crazy story.
Yeah, that is a crazy story. That's where he's buried. And that like we just when Ghost Hunters was super popular, we like looked up where's the nearest place we could go ghost hunting, and then just put in like the zip code, and Marysville Cemetery was like the only place that popped up. But your guys' short film, your Oscar-winning short film,
5-minute film,
was
it was the scariest film. It was the scariest piece of media that I've filmed.
You creeped yourselves out by making it, and that's how you know it's good.
I was a little scared. I did get a little scared. Benny was like terrified in the filming we did before we left our house, because you
just pretended that the house was haunted, and it like talked Benny into thinking the house was haunted.
Yeah. And then he was already knowing like we're going to the cemetery after this to do the rest of the video. Right. And so all of that adding up in his brain, you can actually see the video in the video. You look, I mean, that's how successful actors, sustain themselves.
It was method acting.
Buy in. Yeah. They
on
really
accident.
buy in
Absolutely.
to their character.
Yeah. It was scary. If our listeners couldn't tell, I am easily scared.
You walked so Heath Ledger could run. All right.
The guy we were speaking about that it wasn't a gigolo.
Marysville.
He was the leader of a cult.
I'm a gigolo, spend a lot
and he would
What's the difference?
And he would convince women. It was a cult of him, and then basically just women of Corvallis
helped.
That he would get like it was people's wives that he would just convince, like, leave your husband, come and live with me. His name was Paul Twitchell, not Paul Mitchell.
Paul Twitchell.
Paul Twitchell. Yeah.
Tall or Paul?
Paul.
Tall Pitchell.
Paul Twitchell. Oh. Paul Twitchell.
He was pitching a tent in the village of Marysville. That's for damn sure.
You have not listened or seen or read the story about Paul Twitchell. Do it. It blew my mind. I found out about it after I had left Oregon State.
When we get into our post football season, off season episodes, and truly become a true crime podcast for real, we'll tell the whole unadulterated and also very adulterated story of Paul Twitchell.
Wait, he's buried there?
Wait. I could be wrong. I could be wrong about the name.
No one knows where the body is.
He's getting a message from the afterlife.
Don't start spamming anyone named Paul Twitchell right now.
What,
Benny's
Paul?
Very unsure.
GPT.
He's behind you, Benny.
Done.
A tag on this episode that we don't get to the beer segment till after the 50-minute mark. So for anyone who's looking for Oregon State Beavers specific content, it takes us a little bit longer than usual.
Don't skip this. This is a special spooky season episode.
It's a special spooky season episode. But let's do a quick beer segment and then get into
Snake Draft. Terry, you're first.
Snake Draft. Here we go. I have a Great Lakes Brewing Oktoberfest that I have not tried yet. It is a gift from the Halloween party I had this weekend that just got left here. So you are hearing me open the first one of the case that got left here, and it says it's toasty and smooth. Their take on this classic German style is a real malt party packed with toasty autumnal. Benny, remember when you learned the term autumnal on this podcast?
Live on the Belligerent Beavs Podcast.
I said it the other day, and Yuri's like, what the fuck is autumnal? And I was like, I'm not saying it right. You have to call Terry and ask him.
If you said autumnal again, she responded correctly.
It's being optimistic about fall.
It's being optimistic about Oregon State football.
Optimismal.
So this is your official OSU autumnal headquarters. Oh yeah. Solid Oktoberfest. Great Lakes Brewing Co. Shout out to whoever left this at my house. I'm not sure who. JP.
I have a Starburst.
Yay!
Yeah.
Benny.
I'm going to use my time to correct myself. It was not Paul Twitchell. It was Mind Creffield, who went by Joshua. That was his cult name. But get this, the cult name
Oh, yeah,
was
he's the creep.
Was the Holy Rollers.
Yeah.
Holy Rollers was the cult name.
Is there a roller derby team named that? Anyways, he was a creepy looking dude.
Super creepy.
Edmund Creffield,
mugshot,
aka Joshua, cult leader of the Holy Rollers. No, god damn it. That guy was just born to be played by John Turturro in the film adaptation of his life. Good God. Terrifying. Ugh. Terrifying stuff.
Should be our mascot. That would scare everyone away. It would scare the Cal Bears away. That's for sure.
Well, yeah, the scariest thing. Oh, wait. Cheers. Cheers to spooky season. Cheers to Edmund Creffield.
Halloween.
Yes.
Franz Edmund Creffield.
Oh, my God. No one whose alias is Joshua is an okay guy. Like, if you choose that as, like, if your name is just Joshua, that's fine. But if you're like, I need something other than my real name to go by, I'm picking Joshua. Like,
I think he was saying that he was the second coming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, so I had to start with a J.
Yeah. The second coming of Joshua.
Should have been JP. Then it would have worked.
No, then I would have never been the second coming. Oh. Sorry, Jesus. I'm just kidding.
I love when we have. It's not often we get immediate repentant style jokes on this podcast, but when we do, it's a gas.
It's fast.
Ain't not good for it, man. I'm Catholic all my life.
JP and JC are tight.
They're close.
Yeah.
In sounds, in consonants, and everything. The scariest and worst horror movie I've ever seen took place on the field at Strawberry Canyon this Saturday. Wayne Gretzky, Michael Scott, Mike Riley, and Alexis Serna all lied when they said we never lose in Strawberry Canyon. I don't think anyone's ever lost harder in Strawberry Canyon. There are no more strawberries left. There's also not a canyon left. It's just flat. It's fucking flat.
It's just the valley of the shadow of death.
It is the valley of
That's
the
what it
shadow
is.
of death. Whoa.
Rest in peace, Coolio.
Rest in peace. Oh, god damn it. I forgot Coolio was dead. I thought this couldn't get worse. The Cal Golden Bears, Golden Grams 44, and your Oregon State Beavers 7, dropping the Beavs to a record of 4-4. Headed into the second bye week of the season with the third act 4-game set starting on November 9th against San Jose State. Going into a bye week with a win is usually good to just let the winning vibes marinate and manifest a little bit longer, but I don't think a team has ever needed a bye week more. And there's Trent Bray and staff have a long time to think on this, to adjust. But yeah, just main takeaways. JP, let's start with you. Obviously, there is a lot that goes into this that explains this. But it was a tough day in Berkeley. Now that we've gotten to sleep on this for a couple days, it is Monday night, October 28th, as we're talking about it. Kind of what's on your mind as you unpack this last loss to the Bears.
I mean, nothing went right. Obviously, like that's the highest level assessment that I think anybody who read the box score, let alone watched the game,
except for, I'm just kidding.
Well, I will say, except for, look, nothing worked. Nothing went right. I think that's just clear. I don't want to dwell on it because I don't know. I mean, maybe it happens. Like, I'm not trying to make an excuse, but like, maybe that happens. Like, we already knew our defense wasn't going right and had a lot of issues that they were dealing with, especially on the injury front. We knew that our offense had issues with injuries and becoming more balanced, so we could come back when we needed to and sustain a lead when we needed to. Didn't need that on Saturday, but getting down 14-0 quick was like right away the death nail. I mean, it was clear on that drive after Cal just marched down and scored, no problem. It was like, okay, expected that. Fair. Our defense is still recovering. They're still playing lots of guys who weren't expected to get this much time. We have some big time leaders still out there. Don't get me wrong. And then the offense comes out. We're like, okay, here we go. Been fairly reliable all season. Have not been fairly reliable for the last half a game. And they didn't do anything at all. And I was like, okay, well, let's see what the defense can do. I mean, we were lucky that we even got a punt and didn't have to deal with the safety punt on that first offensive drive. Right. And then what do? Our special teams, we make we made the mistake on the punt return, and then we just we blow it again on the next drive. It just felt like there was nothing to hang your hat on from the beginning of the game. It stayed that way. I don't know if the players felt similarly or if they really were trying to claw their way out and nothing was going their way. And I'm not saying it is one way or the other, but it just felt like everybody, after getting down 14-0, everybody felt like, well, this one's out of reach.
Right.
And I think that's the most frustrating thing as a fan and a viewer, that you wanted to see some fight somewhere. And I think we did a little bit on the offensive side. I think we saw some guys still trying to make plays. I think we saw, even defensive side a little bit as well, but maybe a little too late in some regards. But we got to see Benny G get out there and do his thing and look fairly in control of the offense. I mean, he drove them down for a touchdown, and he drove them down on another drive that should have been a touchdown, at least a score. And then we had the field goal blocked. Again, special teams wasn't great for us.
I just laughed at that point. But blocked field goal.
I mean, that's when you knew, right? It wasn't going to go our way. But I'm happy to see that there was some life with a change on the offense. I've never been calling for a quarterback change. I've never been calling for anyone to start over somebody else. But it was nice to see some life with a little bit of new blood. But I have to say, I think, and I'm certain, I told you guys, that Jam's injury looms the largest out of everything.
That is the tipping point for sure.
Just over.
That's when you started to see the change.
2 yards per carry in this game.
Yeah.
Is absurdly
Nothing
bad.
went right.
Right.
Nothing went right, in my opinion. And I think, I think these last 3 games, there is a hard realization, and Beaver fans are having to look at themselves in the mirror and realize that I talked about it last week, this is the dawning of a new era, and it is new eras typically don't start out great. There was almost this feeling of holding on to last year and riding that momentum, and that's clearly within the last 3 weeks is gone. And this team is just a different team. And I was going back and forth between what is this team? Is this team the team that we saw in the first 4 games, or is this team the team that we saw in these last 4 games?
I think it's both.
I don't know the answer to that. I think that there are a lot of injuries on defense, and that is clearly causing a lot of problems. And I think, while we're on the topic, people that are calling for Hayward to be fired, stop. He has his entire secondary that's been out for half the season. The starting line, or Sevens had their fair share of injuries too. But the defense struggled, to say the least, especially in the first half. This offense, man, I think Jam going down hurt,
sure,
100%. But this offensive line, I think, is where Beaver fans are having trouble coping with the fact that this team's so different. Because last year, our offensive line was at least top 10 in the country, if not top 5. Our offensive line was so good last year. And this year, they're struggling. I mean, you look at Giovanni and the time that he had to make decisions, and it was almost worse than what we saw in the UNLV game. It wasn't great in the Nevada game either. That is a problem. That is probably the biggest problem outside of our defensive secondary being so injured is our offensive line. And that is really, I think teams are taking advantage of that. We're seeing different blitz packages. We're seeing, especially LV and Cal, we're seeing pressure being put on this offensive line in ways that we hadn't seen before. So I think teams are starting to take advantage and understand that that is the weak point. That's the weakness of our team. It's working. And like, if we want to move forward and become bowl eligible and win 2 out of the last 4, it has to start with the offensive line and coming up with some blocking schemes that's going to give Giovanni or Jabari or Ben more time to make decisions and going to yield us more than 2.2 yards per carry, because neither of those things are going to win us any of the last 4 games.
Right. And I think what makes this Saturday particularly hard is the 3 losses on the season previous to this, I think, could be explained. The Oregon game was very deflating, but I think it could be explained based on the situation Oregon State's in. As we've mentioned over and over again, so much was taken from Oregon State. And, this is a year where Oregon's up and they are currently the number 1 ranked team in the country. And you can explain that away, until the cows come home. And there's just reasons to hang on to. Nevada, as disappointing as it was a close loss on the road. There's obviously some pretty electric plays made by the offense. In particular, UNLV is a good football team. They showed that. I think UNLV is better than I thought they were after this close loss. After watching them play Boise on Friday, they lost that game, but they're good. Yeah, that's like
better. They're better with their backup quarterback than they were with their starting quarterback.
This is the game that can't be explained and can't be spun, and it's a type of game that does happen. I'm not saying it means burn it all down, fire everybody. In fact, I think it's a more reason to not fire anyone, because you need as much continuity as possible to get over this stuff. But last week we came on the show and talked about, not giving in to people who are like, this is the absolute depths. This is the Andersen era all over again. And I'll say that even after watching Saturday, the staff on this team, the people employed on this team and the players are so much more talented and so much more, dedicated than the staff and the people who were making decisions during the Andersen era. Remember, that was pre-Barnes. It was pre a lot of things. That was one of the most, damning acts of organizational malpractice that allowed those teams to be as bad as they were. This was the first time, though, where I was like, this game feels like an Andersen era game. And that is what's hard to stomach. Jaden Ott is a good running back for Cal, but he was just barreling through arm tackles, meeting almost zero resistance, most of the time.
He had been averaging 2.2 yards per carry previous in the season.
Yeah, he was struggling, and it was just the fact that we were just the slump buster for Cal doesn't sit well, and that I think in the Oregon game, it was a lopsided score. I saw way more evidence of fight than I did in this one, and I think injuries are catching up. It's clearly not your day. I have here in the notes it took the 2006 team getting an absolutely embarrassing level blowout at the hands of Cal, which happened at home as opposed to the road. It was early in the year, but still, I was thinking about Lavelle Hawkins looking like he was goddamn Jerry Rice out there against our secondary back in 2006 while we were getting killed this past Saturday. But man, there's not a lot to hang on to. And I think that's what's frustrating, because given everything that's been taken away to this point, we hadn't had a loss like this against a team. All due respect to Cal, they came out and they executed, and they do have talent on that team, but that's not a team you should lose 40-47 to. I'm sorry, It's not. There's no reason
They lost 4 straight.
ever lose by that many points to that team. It's weekend that like fucking Kennesaw State beat Liberty. So there's not like another team in college football you can be like, oh, this team would come out and lose by like close to 40. So I'm with every Beaver fan who is out there feeling flummoxed and frustrated as all hell by this. And I do question the effort of the guys who are on the field. I think it's time you can do that. The way that they were drug up and down was embarrassing. Is not something that can happen. They can bounce back, and I hope that they do. And I'm having a hard time thinking who I want to see in certain starting spots on both offense and defense. But yeah, like I normally have been proud to watch the way we compete and the way we tackle, especially. And I was embarrassed by that on Saturday.
Yeah, I got to shout out, though, when you talk about heart, I mean, Melvin Jordan, I thought he was toast. I thought he was absolute toast. And I was like, even if he's not medically, done for a certain amount of time, he could have fairly, given how the team has performed defensively lately, been like, well, no, I'm really hurt. Oh, ow, right? Like, he could have milked it. I mean, he didn't. I mean, he was back on the field looking spry far earlier than anything I expected, and in a game that was clearly already out of hand. So I want to give him some credit for having some heart, even to return to the field in a game that might have made no difference.
Yeah, agree.
But real quick on the differences of expectations, what is interesting is last year's team at this point of the season was essentially at, if you average it out, like 33 total touchdowns. The team this year at this point in the season, the same point in the season, 30 touchdowns offensively, at least all together scoring. So when it comes to keeping pace with productivity on how do we win games and score more than an opponent, we are doing that with the points we're scoring. We're close to what we were doing last year, but we are not close on the defensive side. And I think everyone knows that, but it makes you wonder, are we going to get anyone healthy again or everyone healthy again? For one. Two, when we do, are we going to need time for them to click? Because we don't have time. And three, if we do have the time, or at least everyone feels ready to click and it's still not working out, I think it is not, I'm not saying that we should be calling for anyone's head, but I think we should be looking at maybe reevaluating potentially the structure of what the coaches are responsible for, because a big difference, not who's the defensive coordinator, but the biggest difference of who's no longer solely the voice on the defense, or really anywhere a sole voice on the defense, is Trent Bray.
Yeah.
And it was a point of contention when he became head coach that he decided he was not going to do anything on the defensive side. He was going to purely focus on being a head coach, which I don't blame him for. As a first-year head coach, that you have to do that. You have to buy in and be like, this is my focus, my responsibility. I put people around me who I can trust to do what I want them to do, to execute the way I want them to execute, to motivate the team. I want them to be motivated. I mean, he's handpicked these coordinators and coaches. But that is the only continuous component, really, of last year's team to now, is Trent Bray. And it's the only then continuous difference that's there, is he is no longer a voice for the defense. So
that's
what is
true.
That? What do we do? I don't know. Does he take over linebackers? I don't know. I mean, just does he need to be a voice in their ear beyond being the head coach? I think it's time to evaluate that. I do.
Well, and that's what's hard too, when a great coordinator becomes a head coach, because you're not the department head anymore, you're the CEO. And we've talked about that at length on this show.
Yeah, and I think that like the coaches are still trying to figure it out. A couple things, like I think one thing to recognize, feeling of the Andersen years with you, where this season doesn't feel like the Andersen years. There's so much that's just so different. We're in such a better spot right now, but it was less than a year ago where Oregon State was a top 15 team hosting number 2 Washington, where we should have beat them.
Top 10 team.
Top 10 team, yeah. And we should have beat Washington. There were still like an outside chance that we were going to make the college football playoffs if we would have taken care of business those last 3 games. Third game, if we would have made the Pac-12 playoffs.
Would have helped to have a coach who was dialed in at that time.
It would have. But what I'm saying is it was less than a year ago that those were the stakes.
Right.
Fast forward.
That's what's hard.
11 months. And we're losing our 3rd straight game to Nevada, UNLV.
And barely won the game before that losing streak.
Right. And you get blown out at Cal. So I just want to acknowledge that we like feelings that you're feeling as a Beaver fan are 100% justified. This is a shitty situation. Absolutely. It does not feel good. I will say this team reminds me a lot of Washington State from last year. Washington State from last year started out super hot. They beat us.
They did.
And they beat us. They beat us pretty well. Then they just fell off the map and they lost 6 straight games, maybe more. And look at Washington State this year. I think there are a lot of similarities between Jake Dickert and Trent Bray. And I think what you saw, Washington State got hit hard by the portal too, not as hard as we did, but they lost Cam Ward. And you had a lot of guys that stayed, and there is a camaraderie between those guys that stayed and their coach. And I think you'll see that next year. I'm proud of every guy that puts on the orange and black. That's a decision that they made to stick around in uncertain times, and I think that should be celebrated. And so I don't wish anyone to leave, but I think the transfer portal will be interesting this year. And I think that the guys that stay for next year, there is going to be a bond that is built with those players. You can build into something like what Washington State has done this year with 7-1. So I understand the frustration and your feelings are totally validated. The sky is not falling, and this is not the Gary Andersen year.
Hold on. I think I have to say, I think about the time and everything else, and it's like, the Gary Andersen years, it felt like our rope was still long. It was like, God, we're bad. Maybe we'll figure it out. Maybe next season we'll figure it out. There wasn't this like definitive endpoint, and we're at a much better space when it comes to our conference and the stability of our current conference. But there is still a window. There's still a window where there's some urgency. And so I understand fans' angst and frustration about not executing during this like 2-year window. Yeah. However, it's even more so now a window of 4 games.
Right.
It comes down to these 4 games. This season being a disappointment or a semi-success does come down to these 4 games.
Let me ask you this here.
I think the bigger part of the frustration is the Andersen era specifically was entirely self-inflicted by bad decisions made by people in charge at Oregon State University. Right now,
including Andersen.
Barnes didn't hire Andersen. And right now, a lot of this shit can only be explained by things inflicted outside of Oregon State University. Oregon State was doing everything it was supposed to be doing up until that day on June 30th, 2022, when USC and UCLA, but mainly USC, dropped this fucking bomb. It had righted the ship. It had found stability. And now all of this stuff, like the top 10 team that we had last year that you mentioned, Benny, has been taken away through no fault of our own. So there's different, and that can be more frustrating because it's out of your control, or the Andersen era was more frustrating because it was in your control. Whatever camp you fall into in there, it's frustrating either way. And right now it's like, I don't know that Oregon State can do anything other than keep fighting. And then this past Saturday happens, and it was the first time that there was a display on the field where it looked like we weren't fighting and we were getting significantly outfought, not just out-talented, but outfought. And I think that's where it's hard to then like really see the forest through the trees of why we are where we are. Ben, you know you had a point.
Let me ask you guys this question. So we talked about this back in like December, January. Like, what is the pitch that Trent Bray and his coaches are giving to these kids? Because at that time, you had Darius Clemens come in, you flipped Jordan Andersen, you got Jabari Johnson, like all these like highly touted guys that are committing to Oregon State. It's like, what's the pitch? And I think there was more to it, but there was a consensus of this team has a chance, a sneaky chance to make it to the playoffs. And I think that's everyone's goal.
Right.
That's everyone's goal. But there was a sneaky chance that Oregon State could make it to the playoffs. When if you looked at like TCU or Texas Tech or like these other schools, like they didn't have that. And I'm wondering if that's what you sold kids on, and that becomes pretty evident that that's not going to be the case.
I doubt that was the pitch. I doubt that was actually the pitch.
Where I'm going with this is, does a bowl game actually matter?
I don't think
because we saw what happened. Here's what I'm saying is like JP, I agree with you that like these next 4 games are super pivotal, but to how much does the bowl game actually matter? Because last year we played
the bowl game
behalf of our players.
Bowl game itself does not matter. Getting bowl eligible
getting there
does matter, but I also don't think it matters to the level that maybe we're elevating it to. And I don't think
it matters in the context of history, though. When you look at Bray's first year and amidst all the turmoil, what did Oregon State do? They missed the bowl.
Yeah,
right.
I mean,
that's true.
What feels better? What sounds better? What's perceived better?
I don't think they threw college football playoff out there casually when pitching kids. This just seems like way too intelligent and calculated of a staff where obviously that's the goal. I don't think they used those words, though. I don't think they put it out there verbally. They probably explain.
I would have
if they
why
if they were asked,
because they did have a chance.
Yeah, if they were,
it looked like they did have a chance.
The way
we didn't know Boise State was going to be this year. We did not know Boise State was going to be this good this year, and we didn't know Washington State was going to be this good this year. And we had a guy who just fucking killed it.
Those two teams are not the reason why we're not going to go to the college football playoff, though.
I understand that, but what I'm saying is based on the talent that was coming in and what we were facing, the teams that we were competing against for that number 12 spot, I think that we were talking about it.
Well, we're not the ones making. But you tell a kid, if you come here, we might go to the college football playoff, and then you tank like this, then it drastically increases the chances that
No, but you don't think the kid or their family was asking, so what about the college football playoff? Are you guys eligible? What's your plan to get there? And they were probably like, well, that's actually a little bit easier than it was last year.
Answering that question is different than using it as part of your pitch.
Maybe.
Why wouldn't you use it part of your pitch?
Maybe they probed it to get that question.
Was it ever that
to get that question? Sales 101, man. Like, you probe the question that you can answer. I don't disagree.
I'm not saying it was probable.
No, but
I'm saying that it was more realistic than a lot of other schools.
If we based our chances of making the college football playoff on enticing kids to come here, and like that was the main thing that the pitch was centered around, I think that's a drastic
hold up
of your reality.
Let's take Mizzou for example. Jabari was back up at Mizzou.
Okay,
Mizzou's a great program.
Yeah.
Oregon State is not in the SEC. Oregon State does not have the money that Mizzou has coming in. Oregon State does not have the capacity.
You're not going to play at Mizzou. You might play here.
Maybe
you almost signed on to play with Gundy.
Or would you say that Oregon State, which team at the beginning of the season would you say had a better chance to make the college football playoff?
Missouri, 100%.
In the SEC?
Yes. Missouri.
You think that Missouri had a better chance to beat Texas and A&M, LSU, and Florida?
How many SEC teams are going to go to the college football playoff?
4.
Yeah, you have a better chance. Missouri, specifically, had a better chance of finishing in the top 4 than Oregon State did at grabbing the one non-Power 5 bid, Power 4 bid.
That was That was
100%.
almost certainly going to come from the West Coast. That was almost certainly going to be Boise State, Oregon State, or Washington State.
Or Liberty.
Almost certainly.
Or, Memphis, too. There's a bunch of Group of 5 teams. I don't think – I was bullish on Missouri at the beginning of the season. I'm still bullish on them after they've lost to Bama, Texas A&M. Whatever. I think Jabari wasn't going to play there. That's why I wanted to play here. I would, ahead of this season – if it was Missouri or Oregon State, I would have given Missouri a 100% chance at getting to the CFP over Oregon State before these 8 games.
Dude, no way.
100%.
Not when you're competing in the SEC. Look at our schedule. We had Oregon.
They'd rather put the shittiest team in the SEC in the CFP over us. We're chopped liver.
I know they would rather.
Yeah, but that's the reality, Benny.
Group of 5 teams.
They have to have one. I think
they have to have one, which we had a better chance of getting than Missouri did at getting
top 4 in the SEC. They're probably still going to get top 4. No, we did not. With a new
you
coach,
think that they're going to get top 4?
Even before the season, we had 2 returning starters on offense and 2 returning starters on defense, and lost half of our coaching staff.
Yeah, but if it works, the upside could be there.
Yeah, the upside could have been there, but it's still not a better. Missouri was a really good team last year. They returned their entire coaching staff and a lot of good players. Like, I think this is just a pointless comparison to draw. And we would have to have Jabari on and be like, what did they pitch you? And if they said it's college football playoff, then that's the answer. And maybe it was. But I think that's a foolish way for them to have tried to bring in talent to this new era. Because
I think you're ignoring
the realm of reality.
You're ignoring the idea.
I don't think that that's a sole reason.
Yeah, I think you're ignoring the idea. You're embellishing it. This is like we walked into living rooms and we're like, check it out. Here's our easy path to CFP. That's what you're insinuating right now. That is what you're insinuating.
That's what Benny insinuated with the start of this hypothetical scenario.
No, he was saying that this was a part of a pitch
for sure.
To say, come play here and look at this. Here's how we chart our path to the CFP.
Well, I'm saying I think it would have been insane to tell Jabari Johnson or anyone they're trying to get from Missouri to say we have a better chance of being in that 12-team tournament next year than the Missouri Tigers.
Okay, what about Andersen? Jordan Andersen.
Playing time. That's what I would have pitched.
I agree with you, Terry. I think that with Jabari, they probably were about playing time, but their pitch was, hey, Oregon State has just as good of a chance, if not better than Missouri, to make the college football playoffs based on the circumstances.
Yeah, any player or family that didn't do their due diligence on asking how do we perform in the postseason, if possible, like that would be a mistake by. That'd be a mistake by the transfer, the high school kid, or by the parents to not ask that question.
We're talking in circles around something that's I don't even think relevant. But
well, no, I agree. I think that it'll be interesting to see what happens in the transfer portal if some players aren't buying in that the path that was either lightly sold to them or heavily sold to them of getting to the college football playoff does not, in their mind, seem like something that can come to fruition while they're enrolled at our school.
Exactly.
I agree.
And I think that the question has to be asked because of what we were talking about earlier. JP, I completely agree with you that Melvin Jordan balled out and didn't have to come back into a game that was a blowout, and he did. But there were some plays that were embarrassing to watch. And it did feel like that was the first game where I'm questioning the effort. And this happens to be the first, I would say probably the UNLV game was the first game where it was pretty clear that we weren't going to be making the playoffs, right? But it is settled in.
The UNLV game?
We were 3-1 going into the Nevada game.
We were 4-1.
I think going into the Nevada game
well before that we were not making the playoff. But continue.
We had the same record as Boise State and Washington State. Boise State we had lost to the same team to. I think that is a fair assessment. If you're on this team, that's what your goal is. So it was well within reach. To the team's mentality, it was well within reach.
Going into the UNLV game, our playoff hopes were at
dead.
0.
Yeah.
Entirely.
That's what I'm saying. The UNLV game was probably the first game where the team realized like we are not making the playoffs after that Nevada game.
Sure.
Okay. Was
yeah,
right.
No, I agree with that.
So yeah. So that is settled in. And so my question is this, there was a buy-in that this team was in a unique position to sneak into the college football playoffs.
And now it's not there.
And how much is that playing into the lack of effort we saw? Because what we saw on Saturday was embarrassing. And I think the players would agree with that. And I think the players that don't agree with that should probably look at other places to play next year.
Positioning that allows for the sneak into the playoff path will still be there next year. It'll be a clean slate. It's the same competition to grab that spot, right? Like that opportunity is not going away. I think if there's
notoriety does matter with the voters.
I think we had none going into this year.
Well, that's not what we said.
No, are you kidding me?
From greater college football, they've taken everything away. I think we're underrated nationally and
did not go. Hey, Trent Bray, great hire. The transfer portal, he worked it masterfully for a first time coach.
A lot of people said that. Where did they project Oregon State to finish at the end of that? No one was predicting like north of 8 wins.
So what are they going to say next year, Terry? If we miss a bowl game,
if they miss a bowl game, missing a bowl game next year would be tragic.
This year, if we miss it this year, what are they going to say next year? Even though the circumstances are the same, I agree.
I think they give Trent Bray a pass on an impossible situation.
No way. Really? You just said they just tear us apart because we're Oregon State, and now they're going to give us a pass?
If you miss a bowl game
you're talking out both sides of your mouth.
No, I'm fucking not. You guys are delusional about this like likelihood of making the playoff. I don't think missing a bowl game in 2024 influences your chance to make it to the playoff in 2025. They have to go 11.
No, but I think it influences what the player's mindset is.
But they have to go 11-1 in 2025
State next year.
They have to go 11-1.
Who's in?
It depends. I haven't looked at Boise State's schedule next year. I don't know who they're playing.
It depends on this year.
No, it doesn't.
Yes, it does. You think that they're come on?
They're
dude,
going to look back. Like Ashton Genty will be gone next year. It'll be a completely different Boise State team. I don't think
they don't care. It's notoriety. It carries weight. It matters every year. Why do you think that these guys get ranked in the top whatever to start the season only to crumble?
Right.
They get there because not because they're looking at the talent or who was lost.
The difference between 6-6, 7-5 for Oregon State, like these people are not paying attention to Oregon State on that level. They don't care.
But getting to a bowl is a milestone.
I think getting to a bowl is a milestone, but I think it's one of several damn milestones that need to be crossed before we can even think about the college football playoff.
I think we're talking about two different things.
Irresponsible had college football playoff been at the center of a pitch they were bringing into a new kid.
No,
I don't think it's the center. It's not the center of a pitch.
Words in everyone's mouth.
In anyone's mouths.
It's not the center, but it is part of the pitch because. Hey, Terry, would you not agree? Because you're not going to be competing.
Every program has to
Alabama and
recruit their own roster every year, and that will that question
will
come up. Yeah, I agree.
But just okay, when you're competing against, like I said, a Texas Tech, an Oklahoma State, some of these Big 12 schools, what is the one edge that Oregon State has on them? Is that there is a unique spot that they're in to reach the college football playoff. Would you agree with that? That they have probably a better shot than Texas Tech does next year?
It's probably slightly.
Okay. Why wouldn't that be part of the pitch if they're going up against a Texas Tech, who probably has a lot more bets to throw at them than what Oregon State does right now? So that's what I'm saying is that is probably part of getting these kids to come to Oregon State. Is it the sole pitch? No. Is it the main pitch? Probably not. But I think it's part of it.
I think it's part of a deal breaker for people who are on the fence between a couple teams.
Yeah.
They go, well, which one can get me, the most shine?
It's fascinating to ask because while we're talking about this, Trent Bray has tweeted lock emoji, beaver emoji several times this past week, including a number of exciting prospects, including quarterback Tristan Tia, Big Dave's nephew. Dude can't quit Oregon State. The talent composite, the talent composite of what Bray is bringing in, even during this season, I think is better than outside expectations and maybe not quite up to inside expectations. I think it's pretty impressive. It's a number. I think they have 15 kids.
So
right
how's
now.
he doing that?
I don't think he's promising college
I'm just
football
gonna go sit over
playoff splendor. And I think it would be irresponsible as hell if he was. But not all of these kids are going to go to the 6-7 teams that are going to be projecting the playoff every year. So
but they want to, and
they want to, and they
want to start from, and maybe they get offered to walk on. Where do you go?
To walk on?
Do you go to like a school that you can walk onto? That
GM Tristan Tia right now, and that's why he picked Oregon State over Utah.
Well, no, we're speculating, but I also think it's reasonable to assume
I don't know, the
that
ball
if you want playing time,
in
publicity, and playing time, and you want the potential to have odds to get to the pinnacle of college football in this day and age, Oregon State is not a bad situation, and it is not a bad pitch.
Yeah. And I want to walk back what I said about players shouldn't be on the team next year. I don't think that that's fair. Like, I think that if that's what you're playing for, look, I mean, they're men, but they're very young men. If that is what you're playing for and you're realizing that your hopes are dashed, like, it is human nature for something like that to happen. It's about what happens next. And I think that is where the proof is going to be with this coaching staff and with this team is how are they going to come out after the bye week and how are they going to pick themselves back up? Because what happened, I won't walk back, is an embarrassment. And I do think everyone that's a part of this football program would agree that it was embarrassing what happened on Saturday. But you can come back from things like this. It takes a lot, but you can, and we'll see what this team is made of.
So when we come back from this, one word answer, both of you, who's the starting quarterback?
64.
Nintendo $64,000 question.
Giovanni.
I think it should be Giovanni. I think it might be Ben. I think it should be Giovanni because the problem's not with Giovanni. The 4 interceptions at Nevada, that's not fair to put them all on him. And the offensive line is a big problem right now.
Yeah. Again, I'll rephrase the question. I'm not saying who we want, but who will be.
Yeah, I think it will be Ben.
I lean Giovanni, but I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, if it's anyone but those 3, I'd be surprised. If it's Jonathan Smith, I'd be like, "Whoa, what the fuck happened?"
It's Alfieri.
If it's Alfieri, I don't even know that I'd be surprised. Dude plays everywhere. Yeah, because I mean, I
said one word answer.
Well, that's not how podcasting works. But I still think
it does when we're trying to transition through a segment.
What are you trying to transition to?
Hoops.
Are we done with football?
Ooh.
We should.
Well, no, we should do predictions. Hoops. But here's the thing. Terry, you believe it will be Vonnie, right?
Yeah, and I'm having a hard time. I can see
personal opinion aside, who will it be? Now, who should it be? Who will it be?
I think it will be Giovanni.
Okay. And Benny, you think it will be Ben?
I think it will be. I would not be surprised otherwise, though. But I think it will be Ben.
I think it will be Ben.
You do need to win these next 2 games.
I don't think fans will like it because it sets us back to building a quarterback that can carry us through next year and the next couple of years.
Yeah.
But like you just said, Terry, you need to win these next 2 games. You need to win 2 of our next 4. And our next 2 are our most winnable games.
Yeah.
We're 4.5-point favorites against San Jose State.
They already released the odds? Damn.
And when it comes to us being favorites, we're 4-1, I believe, this season. When we're dogs, we're 0-3.
Yeah. It's interesting. I do think that playing for next year needs to be taken into consideration as well.
Not until bowl is out of the question.
I don't know.
San Jose, yeah.
I mean, it depends. Like,
I think you need to play
it
to
depends on what the
perception.
coaching staff, what they have with Jabari, and if they think that they can keep him.
But the perception of a season carries so much more weight than re-recruiting a player that you have that maybe didn't get enough time that you promised, or they thought they would get, or that they wanted to get.
Yeah.
Like you have to think about going back into living rooms next season.
No, I agree with that, but I also think like getting live reps for someone like Jabari, who's been sitting on the bench now for a year and a half, is also important. I don't disagree with you that the next two games are incredibly
because there is
important.
a formula where if you think Jabari is the riskiest but has the highest ceiling, that at this point, fuck it.
Can he win us the next two? Can he win us two of the next four at a minimum?
I don't know.
You have to weigh that too.
Right. And I think the question that Ryan Gunderson needs by asking himself is he is even considering this would be, are you willing to risk a game for the purpose of playing Jabari? I don't know what the answer to that is. I think the answer to that should be,
I don't think you can right now.
Yeah.
We haven't afforded ourselves the opportunity to do that.
Yeah.
If we were 6-2 and things went a little bit south this last Saturday, and you made a change at quarterback mid-game, and you went back and forth between the backups for a bit,
mm-hmm.
and then you're like, well, one of them's got a future here.
Yeah.
Maybe he'll go for his nth degree, but he can't play football anymore.
Yeah. And
the other is, the incumbent starter that we just replaced mid-game.
Yeah. Yeah.
You have afforded yourself the opportunity to see what your future has against San Jose State, maybe against Air Force, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't have that opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't say it like enough that I truly think that being eligible carries a ton of weight in recruiting.
Yeah. Yeah, it would be interesting to know. I think I'm just jaded by what I saw in the bowl last year, where bowls just like aren't the same as what they used to be.
They don't matter to the players,
so
but they
many
matter on status. They matter
Might be right.
The participation
on where
in the
you
bowl
are
is less important than earning the right to be there.
Yeah, it's where you are as a program.
And
the extra marketing that's
winning
involved.
record. And I also think this is a team that will benefit from an extra few weeks to a month of practice after they play their last regular season.
Whoever plays.
Regardless. And that's because I think the point of comparing Bray to Dickert, I think, is apt and close, and giving him as much time to grow as a coach and grow with these players is important. And that's where I do think bowl eligibility comes into focus for not the 2024 Beavers, but for every season beyond this one. I think you do need to start who you think is the best quarterback to give you a chance to win this next game, and maybe not who has the best chance to light things up next year or 2 years down the road. And I think at the end of the day, that quarterback will be Giovanni at what they arrive at. I won't be surprised if it's Ben, though.
I think it could be. I think it can be and should have been Giovanni. Not saying that I want Ben to supplant him mid-season, late season, but sometimes change is good.
Yeah,
and if change being good propels us to 2 more wins,
right,
then you have to make that call,
and
regardless of how good and how reliable, other than the recent interceptions, but how safe Giovanni has been as a quarterback. I mean, we've had definitely far less safe quarterbacks recently.
And if you're looking
I don't know if there's anyone safer on the staff right now than Branson.
And if you're looking at it from a break glass in case of an emergency, just get a win standpoint, like to tale as old as time, putting in a capable backup is a great way to, quote unquote, steal a win here and there, given that defenses aren't game planning for that quarterback. Even though Ben has played for us a bunch, there's not really any 2024 tape out there. So if you want to maybe like hint that it's going to be Giovanni or Jabari and have San Jose State expecting a guy who's going to run a little bit more, and then boom, surprise him with the more veteran pocket passer, that can be a strategic way to try and win just this game. And I wouldn't be mad at Bray for that either, because you got to put some wins on the board. Anyway, going into the predictions, Benny, your preseason prediction for this game was 33-0 Oregon State win. If Oregon State defense shuts out San Jose State, I would be fucking thrilled. So I think we're all going to be cheering for that, as we are anyways. But bet or bail, as JP wisely pointed out, we are currently 4.5-point favorites. Things have worked out for us fairly well this year when we've been favorites in a game. I still think we are going to win. But preseason Benny said 33-0. Present day Benny on just a few minutes after midnight into October 29th in the Central Time Zone. Benny, how do you feel?
Doesn't exist.
This game?
I think this game's going to be very high scoring. I think Oregon State is going to be very focused in putting an offensive game plan together for the San Jose State team. I think this game ends in a 48-42 win for Oregon State.
48.
And I think it's going to be a messy game as well. I think there'll be a lot of turnovers, a pick six. I'll call it pick six. Weather in Corvallis in the first November game.
Not looking good. Actually, it might be okay. It might be okay, right? It might be dry by next Saturday.
And I don't think those two things match up, messy and high scoring, but I'm going with that.
It can.
Oregon State covers.
Got it. Obviously, that is 2 weeks away, but we'll keep you all posted to the line. We'll obviously have another episode dropping before this game takes place. JP, your preseason prediction for this game. Oregon State wins 31-14. Very similar. Bet or bet?
So the Beavs are 2-6 against the spread this season. We are doing fairly well as favorites, 4-1, as I said. So I will keep my win prediction. I will bet that. I will bail on my scores. The over-under right now is 54.5. And so I would take the over and go 31-28. We don't cover. We win and take the over.
I don't care if we don't cover.
I'm just saying.
Love a win. Just got to see that win column.
I want the win. And again, we're 4-1 as favorites, and I do think that we'll uphold that again, but I don't think it'll be as big of a discrepancy as I predicted at the beginning of the season.
I'm in almost the exact same boat as you. I predicted a 37-17 win preseason. I will, bailing on the overall, I'm going to keep Oregon State's 37. I think we've scored points at home. I think we'll come back ready with a plan, and we'll put some points on the board. So I like 37 for Oregon State, and I'll say 30 for San Jose State. So I guess I will say we cover, assuming the spread stays the same. But betting the over.
You're putting your bet on it now.
Betting on it now. Can we walk these back next week or whatever? No, we can share an updated over under and an updated spread based on what happens during this week. San Jose State, of course, has a bye as well. They just got shellacked pretty good by Fresno State, but they've obviously had some pretty entertaining games this year. Almost shocked Wazoo on the Palouse.
Yeah.
It hasn't been as great for them since then, but they beat Nevada. We didn't.
Yikes.
Spooky season.
They're also
Scarier than Jeepers Creepers.
Well, yeah. They're also 1-3 as dogs. So I think Vegas might have this one nailed.
Those odds. Those are good odds.
And 1-3 in road games. The only road game they won was a 17-7 win at Air Force on September 7th, which is
that bodes well for us too.
Following, I don't know what happened to Air Force. That was a really competitive, competent team last year, and they've just fallen off a cliff, man. So these next two games, we really need to be 6-4, as JP mentioned. We need these two bad. So. It starts with San Jose State, but we got a whole week to think about it. That's fun.
Yeah.
Yay. Think optimistic.
Autumnal optimism. It's the name of the episode. An Oregon State team did win this week. It didn't count, but they won.
Off the record. Yeah.
Off the record. Men's hoops. 20-point win in an exhibition over Montana State Billings at Cal. Completely unrelated from the Montana State team of that iconic overtime thriller that we lost. You thought what?
I thought that it was that Montana State team until I looked up Montana State Billings, and it is not.
It's not.
Different team.
Very different.
Bobby never played at M-Sub. He wasn't worthy.
That's right. Bobby.
Oh my God. I wonder where Bobby is. Could we ever get Bobby on the pod? That'd be pretty amazing.
Maybe.
Oh, that would be so fun.
We'll do some digging and see if he's available. Michael Ratai with a game high 18 points. That's pales in comparison to the more exciting men's hoops news of the week. Usually you aren't adding players to your team this close to the season, but Tinkle has added Lithuanian starlet Liutauras Lelevicius, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. I'm probably not. To this year's squad. The NCAA still needs to review everything to make him
What? Bobby Howard? I think it's the same guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's an assistant coach for M-Sub.
Really? Fuck, we missed our opportunity to bring him on the pod. You know what? No, we can. As a first-hand look at Oregon State.
Yeah, and you know what? We have a bye week this weekend, so we can talk about whatever we want next week.
That's true.
Get the SID for Montana State Billings on the horn, and we want to talk to assistant coach Bobby. They'll be thrilled. Anyway, Liutauras Lelevicius, which is a sweet name.
Jump him on the podcast.
It's all in love. It'd be dope to reconnect. Bobby. Is not an insignificant addition if the NCAA gets its shit together and makes him eligible immediately. I don't know how optimistic we should feel about that process, but this is a dude who has been a fixture on Lithuanian U20 teams, U17 teams in major competitions. He has played professionally in Lithuania. Lithuanian basketball. I'm talking to a lot of Blazer fans in this coming up on the 2-hour mark of this podcast. Arvydas Sabonis, I know you all have his jersey, grew up cheering for him, and that's been a fixture in basketball in Eastern Europe. And Lelevicius has, a pretty impressive resume of playing professionally and playing in these youth national team tournaments. He's coming with a pretty decorated resume. And this could prove to be a pretty significant addition in this current era for Tinkle. So it's another international player. He's a big who can shoot really well. He's probably listed as a shooting guard with just a lot of length and a wingspan that can go from one side of Gill to the other. Can shoot the basketball. And yeah, I think this is could be the latest shrewd move in a series of shrewd moves that gets us back where we belong. And that is in the Elite Eight. A required mention. Great time to bring up. Oregon State has made in Elite Eight more recently than Arizona has. Shout out our friends at the Peytoniers. They probably have a 3-hour episode diving in to every element of Lelevicius's game, but it's a sweet name, Lelevicius. The more I say it, even with less confirmation that I'm saying it correctly. But going into the Eastern Bloc, getting a dude with some deep national team experience, even the youth national teams, but those games are played in front of massive crowds, and he's played against grown men in Lithuania. Like I'm very excited about this.
That's a real grown man,
right?
Yeah.
Zydrunas Ilgauskas, Darius Sungaila, Jonas Valanciunas, and Domantas Sabonis. There, he wasn't going one-on-one with those guys just now, but like that's a high level of basketball. Or was he? Maybe he was.
Maybe he was. That name, I said this in our thread. That name sounds like a Roman emperor, and I love it.
Right. And
I think every time he gets a block on the court, we should call it the Eastern Bloc. There needs to be something, some Sarah Elcano, you know,
the Eastern Bloc. Benny, how often do you think of the Roman Empire?
No, I did until you were like, how many people make references to the Roman Empire when we were in Corvallis, and now I don't that much. Actually, I still do.
Hey, by the way, Bobby's no longer a coach. He's an account executive for Marsh McLennan.
Oh, good for him. Yeah. Answer your question. I actually do. I think about it a lot. I'm really into the Egyptian.
To make you feel bad about it. I just need.
I feel a little self-conscious about it.
As millennial men, we need to keep each other aware of TikTok trends without actually being on TikTok. That is how you.
And I appreciate it. I'm not being disparaging at all. Yes, that.
Speaking of the Roman Empire, Gladiator 2 is coming out very soon.
I know. I'm shocked. It's like 20 years in the making.
I'm so excited.
Not that excited, but I'm also like,
you should be.
Why now?
How dare you?
And I'm like, why? What triggered them to be like, oh, now is the perfect time?
It's when it opened up in Denzel's schedule.
Never saw the first one.
What?
Yeah. Okay, take this offline.
We gotta go.
We don't need to do shit. We can do whatever we want. We're the Belligerent Beavs. It's a Nintendo 64 episode of the Belligerent Beavs. We're only getting into the segment where we play GoldenEye for 2 hours.
Yeah, stay tuned. Proximity mines everywhere. And then when they blow up, they say, "This is the Zodiac speaking."
Thank you.
Highly recommend watching that.
Thank you so much from all of us at the Belligerent Beavs for tuning in to the show through another terrifying spooky season. Have a happy and safe Halloween, especially all you kids in Corvallis. Have a blast.
Yeah.
Have fun. Keep adding to the legend, but be safe. Do not be fucking stupid. And I want to sound like your mom right now, but don't be stupid. It's the best Halloween on college campus. Be stupid.
Don't get caught.
Be the right amount of stupid.
Yes.
Don't do anything your belligerent uncles wouldn't do. Have a blast. Have a great Halloween. Thank you so much.
That limits them down to everything.
Yeah, we don't do a lot these days, but we could if we tried. Anyway,
we think about it.
we think about it sometimes in our dreams, in our nightmarish spooky season dreams. This has been the 164th episode of the Belligerent Beavs Podcast. You have been the Beaver fam, and you have been perfect as always. If we could rate and review our audience, we would give you 5 stars. 5 out of 5 every time. So please, if you wouldn't mind, in return, give us 5 stars wherever you get your podcast. Like, subscribe, rate, and review whatever version of that shit that exists where you are consuming the show. We appreciate it. And word of mouth promotion still exists. So please take a moment right now to share the show with a friend. It really helps us grow the show, and we appreciate it a lot. You can follow us at Bellig Beavs on Twitter, at Belligerent Beavs everywhere else, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, TikTok. Even though I said we're not on TikTok, we are absolutely the show is on TikTok, at least. You can't find our personal accounts there, but you can find our faces talking shit.
We're user 69420 360 1080.
Yeah.
Nice.
Those are all the cool numbers.
Those are all of the cool numbers. You can find us there. MySpace, Friendster, Spotify playlist sharer, whatever. Belligerent Beavs, belligerentbeavs.com, belligerentbeavs.com/merch. And follow us, each and every one of us, for gosh darn sake. I am Terry Horseman, at Terry Horseman on Twitter, and at Terrence Horseman on Instagram.com. I am joined, as I always am, by my two best friends from college, my brothers in Beaver, Benjamin Lawrence Sebastian Wehage, a.k.a. Benny Bullgame, a.k.a. Benny Blastoff, a.k.a. Benny Bedlam, because he's fucking crazy, folks, a.k.a. Benny with the good quaff. It's looking especially good lately, dog, a.k.a. Benny
Thanks.
Boise, because I'm going to see him in Boise, and a.k.a. a bunch of other nicknames. You can follow him at BennyL1986 on all the social media channels. And, of course, our fearless leader on the ones and twos, keeping the ship headed straight, JP Bertram, at the Trial J on Twitter. That's at the _Trial_J, because he's too trial to be real, and at JP Bertram on Instagram. Thank you again so much for being here. We'll be back for a belligerent bye-week edition of the Belligerent Beavs Podcast. 165 will be live and here in your podcast feeds. Can't wait. We'll see you there. Rest easy. It's Halloween weekend. Trick or treat. Eat some candy. Watch some scary movies. Have fun. Know that Oregon State is not going to lose at football this week. That's pretty cool. Be excellent to each other. And always remember that no matter what they do, no matter what they say, no matter what they take away, they categorically cannot spell chop 'em without hope. So chop 'em.
Chop 'em.
Chop 'em.
Beavs back, and happy Halloween, everybody.
And get out and vote.